I really need to set up a camera. I've been thinking a lot today, and I wish I had a legit camera to set up to film this stuff. It's August 11th, Friday, 2023. And this is just such a hack thing to say, but I haven't heard anybody say it in a while, but I was just dwelling on it. Is that old, the meme, the Democrats are the real racist? I guess here's my take on that. First of all, I don't believe that meme. But not because of what you think of because. So the term racist has been corrupted and co-opted. Same with the word sexist. Sexism and racism are subcategories of biology. So no different than if somebody was a botanist, they would choose to branch off into certain botany. It's what is, when you look at DNA sequences throughout all of life forms, which ones represent sexes and have sexes. So single cell amoebas that split off from one another, they actually are non-binary. It's a single cell, and when they want more of them, they gather too much extra resources and they split into multiple ones. That's how they replicate. You do have, even in the plant life, you have male and female, and you have pollination that fertilizes seeds which create more life. You can say that it's not godly, but if you take a scalpel and you cut apart a seed to look at it and you put it back together, whatever essence was in there that could create a plant from there is now destroyed. And if you look at that seed under a microscope and scan it and all that stuff, you're not going to see any changes, and the material is still there. Something is now missing for the ability to create life from that seed. It gets more and more complex as you work up, but when you hear sexist or sexism, if you can train your mind to hear somebody that understands to the best of their ability, or wants to understand, or be a scientific objective expert in sexes, that's what you should hear. You shouldn't hear a negative connotation of a bigotry towards one sex over another. They're designed differently, and you can take design as or you can take design as years and years of evolution where the gene sets that didn't work disappear and the ones that do work continue. And technically, those two things are not in contrast to one another. Moving over to racism, it's also a subcategory of the different ways to dissect a species within the human animal kingdom. You know, you've seen the TikToks of people saying, wait, there's like 250 species of toads, but there's only one human, even though that they have different colors. And so what this is from the left, it's not a bigotry. It's a egalitarian mindset because they've killed God. So what they're saying is we have enough control over our environment. And when you have enough control over your environment to manipulate the outcomes, stuff like IQ is white supremacy. Many merit-based systems become white supremacy because for the most part, and it is white supremacy. It's not Western civilization chauvinist, as Gavin McInnes would say. It's not even Caucasoidal chauvinists or supremacy, because being white is not necessarily exclusive to being Caucasoid, and it has to do with relatively evolutionarily where you evolved in proximity to the equator. And if you look at the Asiatic people, you can see a difference between the people that evolved up north and closer to the equator. And there's white Asians, and there's black Asians, and there's brown Asians. Caucasoids have when Spain took over most of the world exploring, we have a lot of Spanish-speaking Caucasoids with darker skin. And then, we have Africa and sub-Saharan Africa. So even Egyptians were, or could be, categorized as the white Negroids. So when people speak about, how do I want to phrase this? So when they say the Democrats are the real racists, what the Democrats are saying is, yes, if we didn't understand our circumstances, people with high IQs do raise to the top based on evolutionary stuff, but can we please just stop talking about that and get it out of there, because we have the resources, the efforts and stuff that the people that are merit-based, that are intelligent, make enough resources that they can support the adults and the less fortunate. So why don't we do that? It's difficult for me, and maybe impossible for anybody, even economists, to calculate if that's true, because everything's been so corrupted by government intervention, and there's so many guns pointed in so many directions, stealing so many resources. It'd be really hard pressed to figure out the reality of the situation. But philosophically, I can say that individuals in general, on the masses, have an infinite amount of wants, and until we get the technology, and this would have to be a whole separate branch, right? Until they get the technology to manipulate the basic elements that are all around us through the electrons, neutrons, and protons and stuff, resources are finite. So you have infinite imagination for want, and you have a finite amount of resources. Obviously, universal, or not obviously, it may not be true, because we'd have to explore the levels of life as we expand outwards. But universally, if we can move and be more mobile throughout the universe, there's most likely enough resources at this current time. But then we would just replicate more of the more resources that we got, and we'd be right back in the same situation. And if you can manipulate elements, the core elements, or the protons, electrons, and neutron part, to create stuff, you'd also have an imbalance, because you'd have you'd end up with unstable compounds. So that balance is also important, because if you just start pulling all the certain resources, the other stuff would be very dangerous and unstable. There's a reason that the resources and stuff lines up to create stability within the fabric of the elements as it stands. So back to the case at hand. Imagine, if you will, a world, and I'm steel manning the leftist argument. If we have everything controlled and people were actually as intelligent as they thought they were, which they are, they could manage, move, and manipulate what we have to care for, manage, and manipulate who we have on the planet. And so when somebody doesn't agree with that, they see that as being greedy. Why do you need all these extra houses when if we were to redistribute it, everybody could have a home? But to what end? So it's like, here in the United States, the people that are claiming that they need more money and they're poor have cell phones, air conditioned apartments, all the food they can want to their fat, and then they go wait in the welfare line for more money than people in Guatemala that have full-time jobs making a month. So there has to be a natural, or there should be natural consequences, because if not, if you avoid the laws of the world, which are natural consequences, eventually they're going to catch up with you, and then it's going to have to resettle. The further away you get from the truth, the more and more instability there will be, until there's an explosion and the system that you've created that's not realistic collapses on themselves. But picture building a bridge with a mistake in the center. It might not collapse immediately, but the further and further away you get from the more mistakes in that bridge, the quicker it collapses, and the less mistakes, the longer it'll stand. And a mistake on the long run could be even something as materials used, or it could be a mathematical error. So just think about that real one time. The agreement is that the left has made with one another is they won't talk about that they agree with the right. Maybe not the NPCs that are the ones that are getting the benefits, but the intellectual elites. So the Hillary Clintons and Nancy Pelosi's of the world recognize the IQ differences in races, genders, cultures. But they're saying, if we don't recognize it and we build systems that counteract it, then the IQ will become obsolete, because the systems can outbalance the reality through their godly manipulation. So just wanted to get that on paper. I'm still working today, so